Horror films are designed to cause dread and alarm, make your fears come to life, play on your vulnerability, to create fear of death, and to frighten and panic. In general, across all four subgenres of horror, there are certain things you expect to see time and time again. These are known as the codes and conventions, and they are as follows. Weapons. Slasher horror films tend to go for the more brutal weapons that create a gruesome and violent attack, such as an axe, chainsaw, knife, dagger, rope and wire, kitchen cutlery, and blunt objects, for example pipes. Horror films choose to use weapons like knives and hammers, as they allow a kill to happen silently. However, this does not explain the decision to use other weapons like chainsaws and power drills in place of more silent ones like knives. Chainsaws do make a lot of noise. These weapons in horror are chosen primarily because they achieve closeness and tactility, or in other words, a more personal and intimate kill. All horror weapons, be it a chainsaw or a knife, can be seen as personal extensions of the human body, allowing the killer to be physically near to his victim and be creative in his kill, leaving behind signs of his own personal signature butchering style and emphasizing his power. Basically, weapons such as knives and chainsaws, etc., create more gore and gruesomeness and a much more graphic kill, which make them more appealing to the horror fan who wants to witness hideous imagery. In addition, it lets fans see what they, in normal life, would otherwise be unable to see. Examples of films that are famous for this type of weapon are the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which featured a killer who used a chainsaw as a main weapon to tear through his victims. Edward Scissorhands is an example where the use of kitchen cutlery is the way he attacks the characters, where his fingers are made up of knives and other everyday kitchen appliances. The introduction of weapons that the audience can recognize will make the film much more thrilling and frightening, as they are able to relate to the situation and put themselves in the position of the character being victimized. It will also make them feel unnerved within their own homes, knowing that their safety could be threatened by a killer who will have access to a number of would-be weapons lying around the house. Psycho is famous for the shower scene, where the female is attacked by a knife in the shower. Females are used a lot when it comes to the characters taking the role of the victim. Females wearing red establish themselves as protagonists, as their clothing stands out. The colour is frequently worn by females in horror, as it connotes danger and blood. This makes the audience aware that they will meet a terrible end. Theorist Mick Martin and Marsha Porter say the woman that we see through the eye camera is scheduled for death. The subjective camera is used, which makes it look like the viewer is the killer. The camera is therefore on the female victim at this time. For example, in Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 slasher horror Psycho, this is used when the killer is looking through a hole in the wall at his victim. Women have long, brutal, drawn-out deaths, which is seen to be attractive to men. We often see several pretty women being killed, and the number has increased over the years. Point-of-view shots are used so that we can see the female characters through the killer's eyes as potential prey. This makes them seem weak, powerless, and vulnerable. There are many types of female victims you tend to see in horror films, one of them being the one who dies first, normally a female. She would be unintelligent, sexually active, and unaware of any strange goings-on that would be happening in the scene. This character is sometimes known as the sacrificial lamb, there to make it clear to the audience what will happen to girls who are behaving badly. Extreme close-ups of female protagonists are usually used to express their fear and anxiety. Frequently used settings that you may see in any horror film could be isolated, quiet, and secluded settings. A film such as Silent Hill is an excellent example of where a setting like this is the main one. Settings like this make it look like there is no escape from the enemy, and the idea that you don't know who is around is always frightening. Isolated settings also suggest that there is no one nearby who can save you. This setting works so well in Silent Hill, as it allows us to know that there is no one around to help the mother who has lost her child in this scary, empty environment. We are able to feel fear for the mother, as we are able to see ghosts, zombies, and so on lurking in the midst of the town, and the fact that no one is around adds to the enigma and mystery of who took the daughter. Big haunted houses, warehouses, and other big environments such as forests or woodland are also all examples of the main settings you see in horror films. The Woman in Black is a prime example of a film which uses a big haunted house as its main setting and at the center of its storyline. By using large environments, characters look trapped and isolated, while the fear of something lurking behind any closed door or tree is another reason why these settings are regularly used. Another setting that is commonly used, more so in slasher horror films, is a high school. These films are more so aimed towards teenagers because they are able to relate to the situation and the surroundings. Examples of films that use a high school setting are Prom Night, Scream, and Halloween. In horror films, filmmakers try to keep the clothes as minimalistic as possible as to not steer away from the narrative of the film. Colours are used to help the audience determine the type of character they are looking at. For example, if the colour black is being worn, this could indicate the killer. Nevertheless, in some films, costume is a big part of the film. For example, masks and Halloween costumes. Some of the main types of costumes you expect to see when watching a horror film, or the ones that are seen a lot in horror films, are masks, This makes the killer look like they have no identity and makes the audience wonder who is behind the mask. It adds additional fear to what is hiding underneath. Masks can also make a face look demonic, emotionless, and non-human. Also, when females wear all white, it presents them as innocent and saintly. In my film, the protagonist wears white to show the deaths that befall her are not what she wanted and is something she cannot control. Sound is a huge part of the horror genre, as it is used to create suspense and tension. Eerie music is one of the most important and key elements of a horror film. In most cases, music is used to create tension and fear. When eerie music is used, the audience can feel the build-up of something bad that is about to happen. They're waiting for something to happen, just like the characters are in the film. The music will often change and will become more sinister and scary as we get closer to something bad happening. Also, this type of music can be used to build up false expectation, creating more of a shock when something actually happens. This is why in my film we have chosen to go with the sound of an eerie haunted piano. Lightning, rain, wind, or other types of weather, sounds like these can create realism. It is important to create realism when something seems real in a horror film. It adds fear as the audience can relate to it. The killer or the antagonist are usually male or a child of any gender who comes from a traumatized background with a hidden identity. For example, by wearing masks, lurking in shadows of a wood, hiding behind doors, etc. They are the outsiders of their families and at school with no friends, etc. A lot of the time, the audience as well as the characters on screen do not get to see the face of the killer until the end, when he is dispatched and revealed to the audience and to the characters on screen. They may seem to be invincible and can escape death time and time again.